Okay. Sarah, can you hear us all right? Commissioner Lopez? Okay, you're muted, but that's all right. You can hear us, right? Okay. So thank you, everybody. There's a lot of faces, some faces that we don't know. And just remind everybody that this is being recorded because it is a live meeting. So we'll be recording this and it'll be available on the YouTube and stuff. So with that, I'll just introduce myself, Pete Meitzner, currently the county chair and one of the commissioners. And then we'll start. Sarah, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Sarah Lopez. I apologize. This weather has got my migraines acting all kinds of crazy today. So I apologize for not being in person. So thank you for letting me join via Zoom, but I'm interested to hear what everyone has to say. Thank you.
Commissioner Ryan Beatty, 4th District.
Commissioner Jim Howell, 5th District, Southeast Sedgwick County.
Commissioner David Dennis, 3rd District.
I'm Tom Stolz. I'm Sedgwick County Manager.
I'm Kelly O'Brien. I'm the Chief Information Technical Officer for OJ Kansas Judicial.
Welcome.
Thanks.
And Madam Johnson, Director of IT for the Kansas Judicial Branch. I'm Stephanie Smith. I'm the Judicial Administrator for the Kansas Judicial Branch. Amy Raymond, Chief of Trial Court Services for the Kansas Judicial Branch.
Mark Bennett, District Attorney.
Jeff Gearing, I'm the Chief Judge of the 18th Judicial District.
Jeff Easter, the Sheriff's Office.
Greg Gann, Sedgwick County IT. I'm the Business Solutions Group Director. I'm Steve Stonehouse, I'm Director of the Department of Corrections.
Okay, welcome everybody, especially our esteemed new friends that we have here. Anybody in the audience we need to introduce? Welcome, everybody. Everybody shaking no. Okay, they don't want to be introduced. Okay. Tom, I'll hand this meeting over to you. We do have an agenda in front of you and but we have some important things to discuss. So Tom, the manager, will hand it over to you.
Thanks, Chairman, and good afternoon to everybody. And thank you for being here. And the chairman took care of introductions already, so we can cross that off the list. I'll just, for housekeeping for our OJA friends, there's a microphone. It has to be pushed and lit green to be heard, and we are recording. So I'll share with you guys and you guys can share down there, and same with all of our other speakers here. We're here this afternoon to discuss the Odyssey transition. Commissioners, I think you all remember a year or 2 or 3, we've been talking about this project for a long time. It's been several years in discussion. It's a new court system process that is being implemented by the state of Kansas. We have, there's been a work group that has been working on this for months, maybe over 2 years. And I think the purpose of today, as we were going through budget hearings last week, the sheriff, the courts and the DA, and to some degree, the corrections component talked about challenges of what Odyssey may or may not bring to us as this goes live tentatively as soon as August. And so this comes to you today from a budget perspective, that there could be costs in operations associated with this. And there are other challenges which I think Greg will kind of lead the charge on this thing, but each component that touches Odyssey we'll talk about. And so our goal today is to hear the challenges, to see if there's workarounds or solutions, and to recognize if there's any budget ramifications for Sedgwick County local taxpayer because of the implementation of this system. So with that, Greg, I'll kick it over to you and you can kind of step through what's been going on, and then we'll open I think everybody will get a shot to talk today, and we want to save some time at the end for the commission to have questions. So, okay.
Very good. Thank you, sir. It's been about 4 years since we've first learned of the Odyssey rollout. And just to give you an idea of where Sedgwick County has been as far as receiving court data and using it through the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office, Department of Corrections, and the rest of our partners. Full Court is the current case management system for the state of Kansas. It has reached end of life. And of course, they've moved to a new model, which is Tyler's Odyssey. The county receives data from the courts, from our Full Court servers here in Sedgwick County. There's a messaging service that pulls data directly from that database and feeds both the district attorney's JustWare case management system and in some part to the sheriff's former iLeads we're moving off of into the new Tyler product for JMS. That process works about every 7 minutes or so. There's a document that I've shared that's really kind of techie, but it's 30,000 feet view, and I'm happy to answer questions if you have on that. But to keep from getting too far into the weeds, the process has worked really well. About every 7 minutes, we get live data, and the attorneys are able to process that and have confidence that they're working with the most recent data. As we've gone through this and learned about the capacities and the shortcomings of Odyssey, we've tried to figure out how are we going to continue to do our business moving forward with a whole completely new landscape. And there's a number of challenges involved in that. As we went through this process, we got all the partners together. We've had a number of meetings to discuss what we have to have, how are we going to continue to do our business. And through that, it's kind of given me in technology a roadmap in which to follow. We've looked at what's available, and there is a public portal that doesn't serve our need, but the ability to pull data directly from the Odyssey servers does give us the opportunity to feed our systems much like we do today. And my development team has been working on that the past 2 years ahead of any kind of real test server to take and compare data with. That is the biggest challenge is having a state test system that has Sedgwick County data within it that is factual, that we can compare side by side with Full Court and say, yes, it transferred properly. Yes, we have all the data elements, but wait, we do understand that some of them will be in a different place. It'll be presented in a different way, but is the data there? That's the most important thing. So that's what we work really hard on. We have a partnership with Kelly O'Brien and OJA. I think it's an excellent partnership. They've been very helpful. There are limitations in what we can do because the vendor doesn't have the capacity to do certain things, and we're trying to work through those. One of the bigger challenges is Odyssey doesn't really filter well. When you go into the portal, you get all of Kansas as opposed to just Sedgwick County. So filtering that can be very difficult, and it can be very cumbersome in trying to find out indeed where your information is. One of the challenges that we faced early on about a year or more ago was child in need of care cases. How do we filter those just for Sedgwick County? We have an incredibly large number of those that we have to be able to process. It took some time, but through some negotiation with OJA, they gave us the right to filter those cases because Sedgwick County had capacity to do so. And we continue to show that we have capacity to do a number of things that aren't possible with the current Odyssey solution. So we continue to partner and work through those things. The district attorney's office is in the process of replacing their current case management system, which has reached end of life also. COVID did a number of things to us. It paused a lot of projects, and timelines began to change directions where we thought Odyssey would have been live several years ago. Now it's forecast for later this year. In the meantime, we learned that just where the DA's case management system had to be replaced. So an RFP is out, it's active, and we're interviewing vendors. We hope to have a solution defined and picked this year. Funding is to come start of next year in 24. That doesn't coincide with the Odyssey rollout. Right now, what we're trying to do is integrate into Justware so that the DA can continue to do work ahead of whatever the new solution is going to be. Where what I would like to see is I would like to see us wait until the new solution's in place and do all that development work once as opposed to twice, maybe 3 times. I'm also concerned about the fact that I do know that on the roadmap for Odyssey for Kelly's team, they have an update that has to apply to Odyssey. And I can let Kelly speak further to that. But as I understand it, each time a county or a court is brought into Odyssey, the entire system goes offline for a number of days and they go back to paper. And that's troublesome to me. And then once Odyssey goes online for that county, the old solution is gone. You can't go back to it. It's turned off and you're stuck in the new environment, which that is contrary to what we do. Whereas we keep the legacy system alive and we have the new system and we're able to switch back and forth as we need to. And once we feel that the new system is walking and talking and doing everything we expect, the old then pulls back and we still have access to it if we need to go back. And so I'm very worried about that. To wrap up what I'm presenting here is this. We have 90 days in which to come to a solution. I think we're still in our infancy in integrating with Odyssey data into Justware. We need more time. We do not have enough resources. We have one person in the DA's office that can work on this. I have one person dedicated on my staff to work on this. There's a person at the state level. There's a person in the DC 18 group. Those 4 people, if anything happens to one of them, we're stuck. We're absolutely stuck. And I don't know how we would achieve a go live on August 7th. So what I'm here to say is I need another year to be successful. And I don't want to just be successful. I want to be wildly successful in support of the offices that I'm here to represent. So with that, I yield my time.
Sure.
Well, good afternoon. This has been a very long process. I'm thinking it was almost 4 years ago when this was first introduced to us. So we set up a working group with the clerk's office, DA, anybody that had to touch Odyssey. I will tell you, working with OJA, it's come a long ways because in the beginning, there was access pretty much to nothing. And it was all going to be controlled. And which would make it very difficult for us to accomplish our job that is required by state statute. I also made it very clear in the beginning of this that we were not going to add any FTEs to accommodate a state system, because that means I would have to come to you for local taxpayer money for a system that we had no input on. And so I will tell you, it's come a long way since then from my particular staff that's been working on this with OJA. We're pretty much going to get the access that we need to do our job properly. In theory, we haven't seen it yet because it's not up and live. But we're very hopeful that that will happen. I will also tell you that we've had a workaround on a particular issue, which I'm not having to ask for an FTE to accomplish anything at this point. And so until it rolls out live, just like RMS and CAD that we just rolled out live, there will be issues, there will be glitches. That's what happens when you have new systems. But I will tell you from our experience with Tyler, which also has Odyssey, all the pre-work that was done beforehand by our staff for a year has absolutely benefited us because it rolled out pretty streamlessly. Our JMS did, and then RMS and CAD at the same time. We have a few glitches, a few things that are still being worked on. IT has been instrumental in all of this by far. Their expertise on this, or we wouldn't be here. They dedicated people for a year to RMS and CAD as well, and JMS. And so I think it's a possibility that, as long as it's taken here, that it's going to roll out better than what the original dates were several years ago. And so for right now, until we actually see the system live and to test to make sure that we have access to what we need to have access for, we're being told that we do have the access. And when it goes live, we will have that access. So as of right now, I don't have any complaints or issues or anything like that.
Okay, well, from the perspective of the district court, we're sitting in a little bit different seat because Odyssey was built for the court. So it's really not a question in my mind whether this system is going to work well for us. It's going to be, a question of whether it works well for the stakeholders. That's the way the court would be indirectly affected. We have found as we're going through this process that as we evaluate all the different systems that comprise the district court, we find that oftentimes our staff were doing things that, some of the stakeholder staff should have been doing. And we found that some of the stakeholder staff have been doing things that our staff should have been doing. So in my mind, it's just a challenge of reconfiguring these systems. I'm happy to work with the stakeholders to sit down if there's any issues about who should do what to accomplish the greater goal. I'm happy to have those conversations, but the district court will be ready to transition just as soon as all the stakeholders will be ready.
Sure. When we were having the budget meeting a week or so ago, you mentioned something about difficulty with warrant management. Is that issue been resolved?
We just resolved that this morning.
Okay. Yeah.
So the district attorney's
From the district attorney's perspective, over the last 20 years, we have integrated our records management system in with the current records management system for the state, for the county, or the courts rather. So our JustWare system pulls information on a every constant basis from full court. As a result, we have set up our business processes based upon that. So for instance, we issue somewhere on the average in the last few years been a little off because of COVID, but up to 2020, I could say we issue somewhere in the neighborhood of 500,000 subpoenas in the course of a year. No one is going to sit down and type those up, and no judge is going to sit and look at each one of those and sign them. It would take a judge basically full time all day long to do that. So what instead we've done is set up a business process. So when a hearing is set up by the clerk, the judge's aide says, okay, counsel, we're going to be back here for jury trial. We're going to be back here for sentencing. We'll be back here for a continuance. Whatever the thing is, it gets entered. That then feeds that event into our system, which then kicks out subpoenas that have already been marked. It's an automated process. That's how our system has worked. And it works very well because I was just kind of doing the numbers here just to give you a sense of things. There's 105 counties, only 9 counties statewide processes, according to the Sentencing Commission's results from the last report that's available. There's only 9 counties in the state that handle more than 200 cases in the course of a year. There's only 82 counties in the whole state that handle more than 100 cases in a year. And so for those other 82 counties, if you're handling less than 100 cases a year, that's less than 2 a week. Someone could sit down and manually handle that. For us to handle, our most recent year where the numbers are out is we only had 2,100 cases that we resolved, 2126, I guess, from the last report. That's down significantly from what we normally were pre-COVID. So on a normal year, when we're doing 3,000 cases to judgment and we're having PBs, and there's literally there's over 500,000 subpoenas that go out. The volume of work is just more than we can do with data entry. So the other day when I was up here, giving my overview to the management team, my only concern was We are working with OJA. They have been very attentive. I would say, especially the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, they've been able to devote far more attention to us because they've got other counties rolled out. So we're having a very good working relationship with them. The question was, though, when this goes live, right now it's August 7th, and that appears to be the go live date. If there are interfaces that have not been established yet, there may be a point at which data entry, we're back to that level. And so that was kind of my warning, to the county management team, which is I won't know that until we're in the middle of it. And if that were to happen, I can't take a break. I can't take a time out. We still have obligations to the court and people to show up on time and get witnesses here when they need to be. And so there may be a need for data entry, literally people sitting down and typing in the things that would have otherwise been done by an interface. I don't want to be hyperbolic and I don't want to sky is falling kind of a thing, but I feel an obligation to give a warning to you all so that I don't come to you on August 8th and go, wow, I need 10 or 15 RFTs for the next year or so, or 6 months, or whatever it's going to take. Now, it may well be that the go live date comes without a hitch or without anything more than the average hitch that comes whenever there's a turnover in records management systems. But that was the genesis of my concerns. And while we're still working together, that's the process. I will tell you, there may be other mechanisms to find people to help with data entry, and we're working together on that. I'm not going to make any promises in that regard to see if they could help from their end on that. But that is the concern from my point of view. I have to be able to get subpoenas out. I have to have people show up on time, get journal entries done on time, all of the things that just are the workaday processes. And the bottom line is if this office in Sedgwick County did not rely so heavily on automation, I would need many, many more people to run the office. And as a result of decisions that were made during the previous administration, Mrs. Folston, much to her credit, and the previous commissions to their credit, previous county managers to their credit, made sure that we had the resources to do what we were doing. And that's why we operate, frankly, as efficiently as we do, given the volume that we have. I want to maintain that. So that's where my concerns have been.
So with the Department of Corrections, we're mostly a consumer of the information that's in full court. So we're identifying clients, we're getting complaints, we're getting journal entries of judgment. We're able to view children in need of care cases. It's important to understand that when someone's brought to JIAC, that we make accurate release determinations and don't release somebody to a person, quite frankly, who shouldn't have them. Right now, we can use the full court system to find that. Now, we've been involved in this process with OJ from the very beginning, so they understand the items that we need, and I think we're set up to get that information. We just haven't been able to test it yet. So it's just been a process of identifying what we need and how we can get it, or if we're going to be able to get it. Any expenses that we would have, I would think would be in the form of an FTE. Right now, a probation officer can pull a journal entry of judgment on their own from full court and put it in their file and know when the next court date is, know when restitution is. But if they don't have that access, we're going to have, we have, 1,200 adult clients at any given minute. We have 200, 300 juvenile clients. So we need to get that data from someplace. So if we can't pull it ourselves, we'll just send somebody to go get it. That's where it comes down to. So, and it's just the great unknown. We've been able to test in the adult cases, the criminal cases, and looked pretty good at the time. It wasn't our data, though. It was from a different county. So it's hard to know what our data is going to look like. But the juvenile, there was nothing in there for us to look at. So that's how we use the system.
Okay, so as of now, as we want to hear from you, is the 1 year is kind of a request that you think, and the other three seem to say they'll follow along. If you're ready, they're ready. Is that what we're hearing?
So for a year to work, and that's the shortest amount of time I would ask for a year to work, that means my team has been able to validate that everything is working as we think the design is intended to. It goes into another phase of quality assurance and user acceptance testing by each of the departments. They validate to us that they indeed can do their job and operate well under all circumstances they require. And once we have a sign off from them, then we're able to have with confidence set a date and say we're going live and move full steam ahead.
So, yes.
Good question. I just so I can understand clearly. It sounds like there's a lot of fear that we run into issues, but some speculation. Is there there's no sandbox to test this live with our own data? Did I understand that correctly, or?
The test environment is limited in its capacity, as I understand it. And Kelly, you can back me up here, or at least clarify. The environment, Odyssey has full court data pulled within it. The challenges are the ability for that Odyssey database to display the information in a way that we can use. We're able to pull raw data and filter it and match it up to just where, but that, again, that's a temporary fix. That's not our ideal solution.
I will again, from our perspective.
From our perspective, we have been, my staff has been working with OJA to do some of this testing. It's that's ongoing. I think it's the scale. At this point, we're trying to get, we talked this morning about getting a large amount of information so we can test, across the board in all aspects of our cases. So, and in terms of, to answer Pete's question, Commissioner Meitzer's question, these folks here are getting their directions from the Supreme Court. And the go live date is August. Greg's trying to give you all an update from his perspective from Sedgwick County IT. I'll take what I can get. Whatever happens, it just has to work. Okay. They understand that. Greg understands that. And I don't want to pit anybody against anybody. It just has to work. And so that's the situation we find ourselves in.
Thank you. Greg, you are a little techy on that. So I read the whole thing.
I blame my developers.
Yeah. But I appreciate, first of all folks from OJA being here. We did start discussing this with a lot of people that's in this room about 3 or 4 years ago. And we had a lot of concerns, especially about access, making sure we had the access for people that needed the access. Timing was a big concern, making sure we didn't lose any of the data. So those were all some significant concerns. I don't know if Justice Dan Biles is still in charge of this thing. I've known him for a long time. So 3 or 4 years ago, I called him directly and said, hey, we got a problem down here. And he promised us that OJA would work with us every step of the way, and we appreciate that. So I guess the main concern I've heard here today is that we don't want to lose data. We don't want to be stuck in the dark for a period of time. Is asking to delay a year, is that unacceptable in your view, or how do you work with us on that?
So that is correct. We are scheduled to go live August 2023. We have delayed several times. In fact, we actually moved Sedgwick to the back end of the statewide go live of the and so we have worked to move and delay and make sure that we are working with you all, because we know the importance of going live and it being successful. And one of the main reasons was to work with some of the external stakeholders, the sheriff, the DA. In August or September of last year, we started being here weekly. We are here, have a weekly presence. Our IT director is normally here. I've been here at times. Ann is our assistant IT director. And so we have people here and we pull resources. And so we have made substantial progress. We've enjoyed really good partnerships, I believe. And at this point, we're on a legacy system, full court, that is not even The company has moved in a different direction. It's not going to be supported. We have worked to schedule a go live date that we thought was going to be good for everyone involved and to bring the resources needed. And at this point, we need to move on to the new system. Now, we have identified, we do have a testing environment, and Kelly can explain that better, but we just worked today to try and bring some additional, as Mark was explaining, testing. We have pulled some of our experts in the field that have gone through testing and through these integration points and working through it. Our people, as they're working through this, are saying it's in good shape. And so, but if there are additional concerns, we are happy to try and help and bring additional resources however we can. But everything from our standpoint seems to be moving okay. We worked with as well with Shawnee County, Wyandotte County, Douglas County for integrations, and we took them live. Was that last month or earlier this month? Yes. And so that has seemed to go, pretty well so far. And so we have brought even more resources here to try and make everything successful. Kelly, did you want to explain the testing environment?
That's on. Thank you. Yeah, I would. We do have some test environments, and I do think there's some. We obviously have not done a good enough job listening to Sheriff Easter talk, and especially of making sure his folks have access to be able to test things. We actually have two environments. We have an environment that what we refer to as the elevated access users, and Stephen down there would be a prime example of that. That really is at the view level, right? They're at the level where they need to go out there and make sure that their stuff's there. That environment has not had a lot of Sedgwick County data in it unless it was backloaded in. As Stephanie alluded to today, we just after a few conversations, our vendor has agreed to put a full set of Sedgwick data into Stage. So there will be a full set of data for those users that need to go out and verify that they can see that all the court data is there. They can verify and look and make sure if there's other systems that they're comparing it against and see if it's there. Then we have what we call our conversion environment, which is also quote unquote a test environment. That is where we have taken all of Sedgwick County data. And that's what our court hits up against, our court staff, to verify that all of the data has been moved over, it all converted correctly. And when I talk about data, I'm talking about documents, I'm talking about, all case data, I'm talking about everything that is tied to that, financials, whatever it is all moved into that. Our staff verifies against that, make sure that's good. That is the same environment, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ann, that Angela, that the DA, shouldn't name names, I apologize, that the DA is hitting against with the API to verify if Greg's developer to verify that data is there. So we do have test environments. Do we have a complete Odyssey environment that's set up just like our production world off to the side to do that? No, we don't. The expense for us to try to do something like that would have been substantial. And frankly, we feel like this is a good solution. Now, like I said, we need to do a better job educating some of our users and making sure they're signed up, because there is a sign up process to see the data off of our Stage environment. But yes, we do have it. Thank you.
I was really pleased to hear, because 3 or 4 years ago when we started meeting, why they said set up a room, get a working group together, meet every week. So I really should have followed up to make sure that was happening, but I was pleased to hear that you have been coming down and working with us every week. They've been moving forward. So that kind of worried me a little bit, whether that kind of fell through the crack or we were actually complying with what you all recommended 3 or 4 years ago.
No, we do. And they've been productive. I mean, we've had good relationships with everybody on that side of the table. I mean, I feel like it is, there have been a lot of positive things. And as Stephanie alluded to, we feel pretty good with where we're at. You know, there's still some work to do, right? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we're done and we're ready to turn on. There's work to do. But we feel good with the progress, and I think the next few weeks we will see some really big jumps. I think we're going to see some really big jumps in the next couple of weeks.
Well, for Greg, if we're going to implement this in 90 days, rather than a year like you're interested in delaying it for a period of time. But one of my concerns is you indicated there's only one person at each level here in Sedgwick County that's working this. And heaven forbid something happens to any one of those 4 people which you identified. What do we need as county commissioners and the county manager to do to make sure that we have anyone to step in if there is an issue?
It's one of the risks in this. I mean, in any project, there are risks if a key person is suddenly, for whatever reason, a life event occurs and they're not available and you have to backfill, you're going to lose time. It's going to push dates. You know, while I agree with my colleagues from the state on their optimism on how we think things are going to progress over the next few weeks, I do want to caution everyone that it has been spoon-fed at best up until just recently. The resources being applied to the project to date were not available in March. They were busy preparing for the Shawnee County go live. And to compare us to Shawnee County, I think is a mistake because they're not at a level of integration that we will be at. They're just doing warrants. They are not doing the kind of level that the district attorney's office will be using. So that's not a fair comparison. There's a tremendous amount of work that still has to occur. And I don't believe 90 days is enough time to do that and have confidence that we'll be successful. It's going to break the system. I honestly believe that.
But you didn't really answer my question. Between now and the next 90 days, if they're going to go live in 90 days, I don't want it to fail because of Sedgwick County.
Agreed.
If it's going to fail, I hope it doesn't.
So to better answer your question, Commissioner, on my team, I have a number of people that can easily step in and take over for my lead developer. I can't say that for my partners, but I do know that I have extra resources. And like we've done for the sheriff and for 911, I'll apply all hands if necessary to make it happen, and hope that my partners can do the same.
Am I on? I think I am, and agree. And I think I feel the same way. And I think history shows that we have, and I will. I mean, I will continue to throw as many bodies as we need at this to make sure that you know we're able to hit that date. And as long as we know what issues are, we can. I'll throw people at them to try to help. And so, yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, just quick. Thank you, Chairman. So is Johnson County live?
No,
What's their schedule?
their schedule is for fourth quarter next year, 2024.
They are
Started much later.
correct. They are a separate contract. They're on a completely different system called GEMS that was homegrown. And so that was trying to pull data out of there and to get that moved over. But the project started later. There's a whole separate.
They're going to Odyssey as well.
They are.
They are.
I vaguely remember that detail now that you say that, but in terms of the rest of the state, are we the last one besides Johnson County?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. I think our caseload, just knowing what goes on in Sedgwick County, I think our caseload may be even higher than, for a population, we have more cases for our population, maybe even Johnson County does.
More felonies.
Yeah, so I'm thinking too. Once they transition over to Odyssey, how similar is it from county to county? Is it exactly the same or are there differences from county?
We try to make it as similar as possible. We've tried to standardize across the board, including from forms like that the court uses. We've tried to make all the processes as similar as possible. And one of the reasons we've done that is where I think some of the things that we might be able to help some of our partners over here in the interim is that we can do some what we call work share. So that means a clerk anywhere can work in a court virtually at any court virtually. So in other words, we could have clerks from Western Kansas, and we do have a bank of what we refer to as work share clerks that can do court functions from anywhere. That includes their home. And we've taken advantage of that in any number of situations. We're using them right now in Sedgwick County to clean up some of the data prior, and we can use them for other things down the road. So that's why we tried to standardize those. So they didn't have to learn and function everywhere.
Are we going to take all of our historic data and convert that to Odyssey as well so that we only have one?
Yeah, well, when we call historic data, any data that was in full court. So any data that basically, I don't remember your exact go live date here in Sedgwick County, but any date since somewhere around the 2003, 2004 timeline is being converted over. And that includes any data that may not have been full court data that the court themselves had moved in to full court, or any data that was in a FileNet system, their document management system. We're taking all we can get. Let's put it that way.
So you're with the state. Are the other ones here from the contractor that's helping us make the transition? No one here?
No.
Is anybody from Odyssey available to help us get situated once we make that switch?
Oh, yeah, we'll be, well, when you make that switch, so the month of August, we'll be here as long as it takes. Let's put it that way. The month of August, we will overwhelm you with people in Wichita.
To the previous question, I think that maybe that's the answer. We're not really single threaded. If someone was to have a life event, we would have other people who know what's going on that could help us get through that. Okay. And then it was mentioned earlier, I don't know, I think this is great information for the commissioners, but I'm not sure if you guys are asking for fiscal support, and I'm not sure where we are with the budget requests. And then again, official long-term fiscal impact for this conversion. I don't know if we've if there's maybe ask built into this.
So it's hard for me to come and ask for, because the only thing I'll need, again, absent something happening to one of my people who are working on this project, but absent something like that, the only thing that I might need would be human resources, people to come in and help with data entry. Just to give you a sense of things. I mean, I want to underscore what Greg said and what these folks have said. They've gone live around the rest of the state. This has been fairly seamless in those. There have been a lot of issues that have been identified. I will say candidly, much of the complaining that I've heard from other prosecutors, when the communication lines were opened, these folks were in a better position to answer some of the questions. I think there was a lot of prosecutors and sheriffs and folks in law enforcement who were operating at really limited, truncated access to things and thinking the system was a train wreck, not knowing that there may have been workarounds that just weren't available to them. So some of the consternation I heard, I think, has been worked through. But to Greg's point as well, Sedgwick County is just different. There's a reason we're the second to last to go. I just did get a quick head count of the 105 counties last fiscal year, where the numbers are out. 31 counties out of 105 processed to completion journal entries of judgment, meaning they took a felony from charging to completion. 31 counties handled fewer single-digit numbers, fewer than 10. Okay, I could type that out on the way I type, right? The level of integration that we have is what I'm concerned about. I'm not throwing shade at anyone. I'm just to answer your question. If I can't have that, if that doesn't work, if it's not ready, then yes, I will come to you and say, I need help. And what do you need? I don't know. I need people to help me data entry all of that information. How many? I can't even hazard to guess. I think it would just be literally throwing a dart at the wall. So it puts me in a bad position and puts you in a worse position. But I don't want to ask for something now that I may not need. I don't want to not say anything and hope against hope that everything goes great when it doesn't, that I'm in here with an emergency ask. I have no doubt that they will give me bodies. I have no doubt that Greg will throw every resource he has to help me, because this can't not work. But the amount of human resource, blood, sweat, and tears it will take to make the light stay on is something I'm not smart enough to give you a direct answer, Jim.
Chairman, if you don't mind, I got heartburn on two issues in particular, and I'm kind of new to this. And I'm catching up. Thank you for all the information you're giving. And the two heartburn, the first is this child in need of care. Are we 100% certain? Not we hope, not we're assuming. Are we 100% certain that our people have the tools they need to track these child in need of care? There's nothing, no risk whatsoever in transitioning on the go date.
By tracking, do you mean accessing the information that they need to do?
Stephen, is that what the, yes.
Okay.
Did you?
So yes, so the Juvenile Intake and Assessment Center, which is part of Steve's group, will have access through the portal for child in need of care cases. If there's a case that they're looking for that they can't see, I encourage them to reach out to me and we will figure out why they're not. But they've been given permissions to see those cases.
Got it. It just feels to me, and again, I'm the new guy in the room, but it feels like there's a lot of assumptions, and I sense the tension on Greg's part when he said system failure. I just don't know if we could risk system failure. There's just so much data in Sedgwick County. And I know he's asking for a year and the timetable is 90 days. I mean, is there a chance that we could get, and you said Johnson County for different reasons. It just feels to me, if we can't do a year and you want to go 90 days, the anxiety is giving me heartburn because there's so much risk involved here. Maybe we can arrive at a middle date that would give everybody here some peace, that we're going to have a smooth transition and some more testing time.
Well, there's several things at play. I mean, one, that's going to be money, and a lot of money under our contract. Two, we're on an outdated system they can't support any longer. So we've got that. And so I ask, what are the things that need to happen that are showstoppers? And we keep asking that every week.
Okay.
And just a few weeks ago, we were told about we've got some issues. And so we said, what can we do to bring additional resources? And that was one of the first times we'd heard that here's some things we need solved right away. That's going to be critical to go live. And we brought additional resources. So I guess that's what I ask. What is a showstopper? What can we help with? What do you need? Because from our perspective, we keep asking this, and we're trying to solve what we were told are issues.
To clarify, does full court, is that a drop dead date that it's system down, drop dead, or?
Actually, July 1st. We will be completely out of maintenance. I mean, it will be no longer supported. And I do want to correct.
Can I just ask one quick? I'm so sorry.
No.
So when we do transition to Odyssey and we drop full court, can we not go back? This full court, we can't go back and access that data, or is that still accessible data, or?
Well, you would be able to access it. Now, that's what thank you for, that's a great segue on what I was going to say. I keep hearing there's a concern about the data, and I just want to clarify from a court perspective in the court's data, and I'm assuming that's what we're talking about here. I'm 100% confident all that data's there. 100%. If there's a higher number, I would give you that all that information's there. It will all be in eyes. I can promise you. Now, like I said, we got to work on making sure everybody, all the people on this side of the table can get it. But I'm sitting here today, and I know it's being recorded, that all that data's there.
So I'd like to clarify. So there's a distinct difference. Yes, the data will be moved from full court into Odyssey, and that data will be there. But what's missing are all of the automated processes, all of the workarounds that we built into full court over 15 plus years, all of the automated subpoena processes, the 18 months my team spent on creating a successful speedy trial solution, all of the elements that Mark's office depends upon on an hourly basis. And having the data is one thing, but the process that processes the data, that's what's missing when full court drops off. And that's what I'm terrified. I don't have a solution for that other than we go back to paper, and paper is not a solution that works here, not with the volume that the district attorney's office works under.
So Ryan, I was actually asked by county staff just a moment ago to more directly address your concern about sync. I will say that I don't know that there's any sync data in the portal as of yet. The processes are in place so that they should go, when they go live, they should work. I'd also point out, and there may be, I'm just not aware of that. I'd also point out that, we were given testing access in February of this year. We are in the process, and today we got assurances that they're going to be able to download a great deal more information. So yes, we're all working well together. I guess I'll just point out, in terms of our concerns, we've been bringing them up since we've been given access to the kind of testing data. Praise in public, argue in private, and we'll keep it at that. But as to sync, there's one other wrinkle there that is unique wholly to sync, and that's not just Sedgwick County, it is everywhere. The thing that's unique about Sedgwick County is our volume. We do so many more sync cases than really anyone else. It's a criminal case. You will have a judge who needs access to the information so he or she can set their dockets. You will need something for the prosecutor who needs to be on one table and the defense attorney on the other. Even in multi-defendant cases, they each have their own settings. In a child needed care proceeding, it is a room full of people. You'll have a guardian ad litem for the child. You'll have an attorney for the parents. If there's, and I cast no dispersion, but I'm going to make a factual comment, and that is, with every child that's in the room, there are very often putative fathers, meaning they're not sure who the father is. There may be 3 or 4. Each of those individuals is represented by an attorney. Then you'll have, caseworkers and whatnot who have to access information and provide information to the court. And currently that has gone through an automated portal where this information is then shared to all the parties. There's a lot of moving parts. I have no doubt that these good folks have thought through all of that. And I'm getting a nod of the head confirming the same. But I'm just telling you, there's a lot more. And the sync is not just, your concerns aren't just, I'm sure, not just because of, or shouldn't just be because of the stakes and the fact we're dealing with children, but it is a far more complex setting and situation than your average criminal case.
Thank you, sir.
And Commissioner Lopez has a question, and just for our friends at OJA, Sarah does come into as a county commissioner with a little bit. She's got more IT background than the 4 of us combined. So she is the smartest beer in our 6-pack. So
Oh gosh.
anyway.
Well, no pressure or anything. Well, thank you for allowing me to ask a question. I am concerned when I hear Greg say that we can do this, but we can't go back. And I've seen a lot of really good transitions to new software, and I've seen a lot of really bad transitions to new software. But thankfully, on the bad ones I've seen, we've been able to flip it right back to the old environment that we were used to. If that's not an option, that concerns me. And when I hear system failure, our system, when we think about a system failure, it's not just data, it's people. I mean, we're talking about people's lives that we're interacting with here. And so I am very concerned when I hear our IT department say some of those things. I won't sugarcoat that. I mean, that worries me. So I don't know what we can do, but if it's possible to push that back, I don't know if it doesn't sound like a year is going to be feasible for the state, but it does sound like realistically, there are still some very major concerns that we need to address. I don't know if I've ever gone into updating or going to a whole new system without having a thoroughly tested out environment that we can work through and test things if you know, whatever, you guys know what testing environment looks like for a typical situation. So I am concerned that that's not happening right now. And it sounds like from Chief Judge Gehring that, you know, even some of our people don't know who's supposed to be doing what. Some departments are doing something that maybe another department should be doing. And it just seems like if we're trying to go live in August, these things should have been already worked through. And so I'm struggling listening to this on the reality of that we're going to go through and it's just going to hope it works when we can't go back to the old system and continue working as we are now. So I'll leave my comments there, but I tend to lean with what Greg is saying, and just there's some concerns that I have with that.
Well, Commissioner Lopez, I didn't want to leave the impression that there's chaos when no chaos is there. It's just that when we're going to a system like Odyssey, where certain people have certain designated roles, then the court and the stakeholders have to adjust to those designated roles. And we've done that with Sheriff Easter with respect to his warrant issue. We'll do that with DA Bennett as things pop up, but I'm confident that the court can work through those issues with stakeholders. It's just that oftentimes when you're forced to reevaluate your processes and you're asking yourself, well, why is it done this way? Why are the clerks doing this work instead of the sheriff's office doing this work, or vice versa? And oftentimes it comes back to because that's just the way it's always been done. And so this reevaluation of who has responsibility for what is probably something that needs to be done in a healthy environment, whether or not you're changing from Odyssey. Odyssey just forced us to do it early. So I just didn't want to leave the impression that we're floundering around when at least we're not floundering in those departments.
Okay.
Well, and I apologize. I don't mean it in the way that I think you might have taken it, but when I'm thinking about going live with a new product, when we've done all those testings, I mean, we should be able to just know exactly how things are going to work. Normally, there would be a testing environment with all of your live information, almost a mirror image where you can go in and run something from start to finish and say, this is exactly how it's going to work. This is how it's going to impact our group and your group. And this is how it's going to interface together and have that whole streamless process finished before you even go live, just to ensure that it's going to work the way we want it to work. And then if we run into things like Greg was talking about, where we have certain things programmed into the system we're using now, and maybe it doesn't work the same way in the new one, and how can we address that before we go live? It just doesn't sound like that has really been done yet. And going to a go live date in August, that concerns me. And like I said, when I hear IT say system failure, that's even a possibility, that stops me in my tracks, just because I've seen what a system failure can be in IT and how far that can take you back. Now, I came from healthcare, so it was a little bit different than courts and everything, but a system failure is not something we want to see here. And I just think about what that's going to mean to our taxpayers, what's that going to mean to the people that are in our system, and how does that impact every level of these things. And when we've talked about, we've had all this backlog of cases that we're going through. If we're stopping now and we're slowing that process down, if we're finally getting caught up now, what does that mean to all of the work we've been doing? Thank God we've gotten some of that done, but where does that leave us going forward? Those are my concerns. So, I mean, if we can address those, that's great. But I will tell you that I'm worried that there hasn't been the level of testing that I'm comfortable with to implement a new system already done.
And I appreciate all of that. Thank you. First off, is it okay? I mean,
Yeah,
don't know if
I think
should-
it's time
if
for
I need
OAJ
to,
to respond. Yeah.
If I need to ask. Just chime in.
No.
First off, so I want to be clear. So we don't take the full court server on Saturday on the weekend that we're converting it over and throw it out in the dumpster. It's there. And And it's there in the case of an emergency, right? If for whatever reason during data conversion, there's a thunderstorm or whatever, and we just can't get the data there, and Monday you guys will not be up, we would turn the full court server back on, and you would go along business just as usual. So it's there. What won't be happening is data will not be entered in full court after a certain, I don't have the calendar right in front of me, after a certain date, right? So whenever we're shutting that off midweek prior to August 7th, I don't have the calendar in front of me, there'd be no new data put in there. But the server's there, in worst case scenario, we can turn that back on. Again, I want to clarify, because I do think the whole testing thing, I'm trying to explain it. We don't have an absolute duplicate prod setup out there. We do have a testing environment with all of Sedgwick County's data in that people can hit against. We're going to shortly have our what we refer to as our stage environment that will have a full set of Sedgwick County data in it for the external stakeholders to hit against. So we will have testing environments that will be completely full of Sedgwick County data. There's Sedgwick County data, like I said, complete set in one. There's whatever data needs to be entered, and we enter it if they want to in the other one. And we're soon to have a full set of them. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands, I don't have a dual prod system. So I don't have a duplicate system that has all the state data in it somewhere. So I just wanted to clarify. I'll leave
Can I
it.
ask a question then from what you just said?
Mhm.
I guess I would like to know when that data will be there, and can we get before we go live, where we can pull just Sedgwick County data from start to finish and go through a whole, like how everything that DA Bennett was saying on the whole process that we go through in these systems. Can we run multiple tests from start to finish with only Sedgwick County data, with all of the departments that will touch, so we can just make sure that there's a comfortability that it's going to work the way that they need it to work come go live date?
Yeah, we are hoping. Now we got to have some conversations, but we're hoping that in that environment you're talking about, which most of what we refer to as our elevated access users would hit, we're hoping that within a couple of weeks, is that what we talked about was a little longer.
No, it's about a week, but they have access now, can write spaces.
Yeah, they can. She's asking fully Sedgwick County data.
Okay.
So yeah, again, what Stephanie's reminded me, you all have access now. There is Sedgwick County data in there. It's not a full set. So again, we want to clarify that, make sure everybody's understanding of that. Amy, do you want to add something?
No, they have access to the conversion site that has Sedgwick County data. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, they have access to
Yes.
conversion. And
Yes.
And then stage will be completely full as well.
Yes. So there'll be two sites that they can access.
Yes. And so to get stage fully, get a full set of Sedgwick County data in there, it'd be about a week. Maybe a little longer. I don't know how Tyler's weeks and my weeks are a little different. So can I say two? And hopefully we hit it in one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think it's really important that the testing is done with adequate time, that we can make changes as necessary. And I know August is going to come very quickly. So as soon as we can, do a whole process multiple times over, I think I would feel more comfortable with things. But again, I'm not in IT, I'm not running this. So I'm going to defer to what our experts are saying and on the county side, because if this doesn't go right, I mean, the people that are going to hear about this the most, and that are going to be the commissioners, people are going to come to us, are going to be very upset, and we're going to have to address why we didn't slow this down if we were concerned that there could be issues. And so I just want to make sure that our IT is comfortable going forward. And right now, it just doesn't sound like they are in the time frame that we're looking at.
I'd just like to clarify that, the information that Kelly's talking about, having access right now, that's just the portal. That doesn't that doesn't impact the district attorney's office and their integration like full court is today into JustWare. So that's a completely different animal. That has yet to be vetted. It's yet to be completely worked on. If in a perfect world, if we were able to do a day's work of business from each of the stakeholders and be successful from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and we were able to do a regular day's business and it worked, I would say the system's ready. But I don't have any confidence that we could even begin an hour's worth. We're just not there.
Again, the data's there. I'm going to say the data is in conversion, a full set of data. Yes, is there still some work that needs to be done for that connection in? And I think that's what Greg is talking about. Absolutely. There's some work that needs to be done there. And I know Angela's, sorry, I keep saying name, the DA and others are working really hard to see that happen, but the data's there. I mean, I think we're just talking across each other at this point.
If I can say something.
Yes,
What's available.
right.
There's some stuff that's available. It's not enough for us for what we need. We're working with it.
But I mean, I'll be blunt. I don't think we know yet.
Yeah.
We know we have commitments. We know we have concerns. I think we need to ask any more questions you have. Well, we're not going to know for another 30 days.
Right.
We may not know till July. And it's entirely possible that they'll be right and we'll have it done. It's entirely possible that come July, we won't be ready. I don't know. I think at this point, frankly, we're throwing darts at the wall.
If I can make a couple comments, I was taking notes in the first comments and, for instance, I know Sheriff, you had an issue that I thought was supposed to be a pretty sizable issue that you said was solved this morning, which is good news. I don't even know what the issue was. And Judge, I heard you talking and at first I just wrote when you first were talking, I thought my question was, is there maybe a training issue as well or a communication issue for some of the staff? I don't know. I was alarmed when I heard 500,000 subpoenas alone a year. That's kind of many, especially when we only have 500,000 residents in the county. But the encouraging thing that I'd heard is consistent from OJA was additional resources when needed, throw bodies at it. Maybe throw bodies isn't the right word in our environment, but somebody said it. I thought, okay. And as long as it takes, I heard that. And I appreciate, I'm sorry, I don't have your name. You talked addressing the children issue that Commissioner Beatty had. I hear a sense I know you all, and I have tremendous confidence and trust in you all. And I have to have an assumption that OJA, I've never met them, but their sincerity in supporting and throwing bodies and being here and not letting it go bad without turning it back on. I don't know. I just need to know, are you all, and then I hear you want a year. And so, but also hear that our current system is not supported as of. So I'm not sure if a year on a not supported system is a better decision than throwing support and a commitment at getting this solved. And maybe we experienced that this morning with Sheriff Easter's solution that you got or your issue. So I'm a little confused at it all, but I'm hearing a lot of things that I'd have to weigh. Is having a not supported system worth going an extra 9 months because you're not comfortable?
So just to clarify, Commissioner, we have JustWare, which I have third-party support. It's been out of service by the vendor for at least a year and a half, 2 years. We're keeping that alive. I've got support through 2025 on that if we need to, but we won't. I have an active RFP right now to replace their case management system, which is going to have to integrate into Odyssey. We're currently integrating the existing legacy system, trying to do that for Odyssey, when we're going to turn around and do this all again when the new system comes online in 24. I agree with Kelly. A lot of amazing things have happened and we're getting there, but it's not here yet. So I've been told to not count anything until it's in my hands. I know that in just the last week, we've learned that Johnson County has an integration piece that we possibly could leverage that could solve 4 or 5 major issues for us. Don't know if we can use the data, don't know if it'll apply, but I'm certainly willing to investigate that and explore every opportunity to be successful. Does the timeline between now and August 7th scare me? It does. But it doesn't mean that my team is going to slow down on this at all. We'll work twice as hard because we know that that's coming. I'm asking for more time because I want to be successful. My fear is that 90 days is not enough time to stand up a system as important as this is to public safety.
And if I could say one thing about things that are unsupported, when I was with the hospital, and I'm not recommending this, but this is not something that was great, but I took care of an application that was unsupported for almost a decade that we kept alive because of the information that was on there and what it did. And there was just no other systems that we could go to for that. So saying something is, not going to be supported, it doesn't mean that it won't work. Doesn't mean that we can't keep it going. It just means it's just not supported by the other group. So I think that's a little misleading if you don't realize that you can still use that. It sounds a little different, but I realize that the data will be there, and you've made that very clear that the data will be there, but that doesn't mean the processes are going to set up in a way that we can access the data in a timely fashion, which I think is what I'm hearing a lot of the concern is, because if we have to go back to paper, that's going to slow us down in such a way that it's just not feasible for a county the size of Sedgwick County, and as much as we would use this system. So for some of the smaller counties, maybe that wouldn't be, as big of a deal, but for us, it's not feasible. So maybe we can get there by August. If you're saying that you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be helping us from now on, I think there's a lot of miscommunication maybe that's happened. And, I don't really care why we are here where we are today, but if we are on this timeline of August 7th, then we need to figure out how we can make sure that we're all comfortable going forward. So if it fails, we can say that, we've tested, we did everything that any other system go live would have had. And that because if it fails and it comes back to us saying that why didn't we do this, and this when we knew that there was concerns? That's what I'm really worried about that we're going to get to. So I'm not saying it's impossible that we won't get there, but I think if you're going to guarantee that you're going to have a lot of people available to help us, that now would be the time that we need that. And we're going to have to really push really hard to try to get this done in that amount of time.
Yes. Well, again, I want to thank OJA for coming down. This is the first time that we've been able to sit here and talk face to face with you all. The commission's job is to provide the resources to our staff to do their job. And so we have to provide the people, the funding, wherever it takes to do that. And this commission is dedicated to doing that. We will provide whatever that Sedgwick County needs to do. Another thing that Sedgwick County commissioners have to do, though, is that if we see a problem, we'll make sure that we tell you about it, but that doesn't mean you might stop at your level. We want you to understand it. We will go higher than you if we run into some issues. And that's our job, because we have to support all the people that work for us. So when I heard that for sure that full court's going to lose its maintenance as of 1 July, that's a concern. Granted, it'll run for a while, but eventually it's going to run into bugs, and it's not going to. I'd hate to try and push it for a year in order to be able to keep full court alive. So that makes it imperative that we provide the resources to Sedgwick County to make sure that we can integrate this new program, and that we will advocate wherever we need to advocate to make sure that it's successful. Thank you.
So thank you for the chance to speak. The comments from the chairman, I echo those comments. I think we have great staff, and I don't think that if you don't feel like we're ready, so I liken this to an Apollo rocket launch or something. All systems have to be go before you hit the launch button, so to speak. So if something's missing in this system, we're not gonna, on August 7th, just pull the plug and go forward without having those pieces in place. So I think 90 days is a great goal, but if it's not 90 days, it's 95 days or it's 105 days. I think we'll go when we're ready. There's no reason why we have to be 90 days exactly. But I think for us to just simply say it'll be a year away, I think that's also missing a point. It doesn't keep the drive that you are feeling right now. You're doing a great job getting us ready for this short goal. But if you don't quite get there in 90 days, I think we have some latitude to add a little bit of time to it if we need to. But I don't want to pick a goal of a year. That sounds to me like that would be who knows we'd be ready in a year or not. So I like the idea of a goal of 90 days, but again, if we're not ready in 90 days, I have no doubt we would add some more time at the end of that. So we would make the jump when we're ready. Another analogy, it's like we've drawn a bath. We're going to put our toe in the water. We're not going to dive in. We're going to check the water, make sure it's ready. And when we feel like we're ready, then we'll take the next step, I think. You want to speak? Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I came in here with a year and fully expecting I'd have to negotiate. So, I'll come in and I'll pad my estimate. But if all I get is 6 months, well, I'll take it. But I'm just fearful that 90 days is not enough.
You mind if I make another comment, Commissioner? I've been kind of just listening and stuff like that. The difference with the sheriff's office compared to the DA's office is we are view only. We do not have elevated access. Is that a change for us? Yes, because in full court, we have full access to everything. There's a lot of things that we do by state statute that we have to report back on, that we have to create reports on, those type of things. So I'm gonna be very fair. In the beginning, when we first had these conversations with you, and I'm not sure OJA was really involved in the very beginning because this was coming from the clerk's office in these meetings, is you can log on the public portal and what you get is what you get. And with the processes that Greg is talking about, the integrated processes, that cut down data entry for us. That's why it was done. The warrant extractor broke about a year and a half ago. And so we did not want to spend the money to fix that, knowing that there was going to be some type of solution through Odyssey. What I will tell you is that when we finally started all getting together and working on things, that view access for us, it's not elevated, but it's a lot more than what we had before. So we don't have it. We've looked at it and it appears that we have the access that we need. But the only thing I would tell you is that just like the Tyler project we just got, there's things that we assumed were going to be ready to go. They're not yet because of the glitches. So we anticipate that in Odyssey. But for us right now, there is no extra process since the judge and I and courts cleared up an issue that would have caused us to come in here and ask you for an FTE. We cleared that up this morning. So for us, it is it's imperative that the DA's office is operating functionally or at the best that they can, because we rely on the DA's office to get our job done. And so I understand, what Greg is saying, because what we just went through for a year, we were in a testing process. And we broke the system several times, and the testing process was built that way. So we could break it, they could fix it, they could diagnose it, put the right fixes in. So when we did go live, we didn't have those issues. And so this is different than what we just went through. And that's why there's some of this uncomfortability about it.
Very, very good comments.
I would just agree with that we're going through a similar process with our record management system. We've always had a product environment right next to it, so we can break it at the same time. So we know what to expect. We know everything's not going to look the same, but Just like with the sheriff's system, if something doesn't work, we can find a workaround, but we have to know it's there. And just having that the sandbox or the other environment is just our comfort zone, I guess. That's how we're accustomed to doing business.
So it's kind of OJA's and the Supreme Court's call, but it sounds like, can we make sure that everybody's all right before we go live? I mean, I think that's basically how we all feel it. It's just having trust in OJA and the Supreme Court that these people and their departments will be at least a level of near comfort, if not really comfort. Is that a badass?
So of course, Sedgwick County is our largest case filings, our largest size. We want everything to work correctly. And as we're going through, I think Mark Bennett had, a good point that we're going to see over the next 30 days what kind of issues we run into. And if we run into something that can't be solved when there are adequate resources devoted to it, then, we've got to reassess. But at this point, everything is pointing towards we're moving down that path and things have been going, we've been working through the issues. Do you disagree, Kelly?
No, absolutely not. I do agree. Our goal is not to break you. That is not at all what we would want to do. We hope to improve what you're actually doing. And certainly at the court level, that's one of the things that we're certainly striving for. So yeah.
Well, as Commissioner Dennis mentioned, our job is really to help fund and support whatever they need. It's not fun to have emergency stuff, but we all went through COVID, so we know what emergencies are. So at least we've all had training on that. But obviously, if you've got the resources and the additional support factors that can help, that gives me comfort that you won't be coming at us saying, "Hey, I need staff," and things like that as much as first thought. We still may end up having to have whatever it is to do that.
Chairman, I might add, from a staff perspective, I think our questions have been answered, and I'll give Lindsay a shot if she wants to, but I'm hearing zero budget impact for this transition. So that's how we'll progress forward at this point.
Can I ask for something? Is that okay?
Sure,
Can we get
absolutely,
updated progress on how this is going? I don't know, monthly from now until go live, just so we have more comfortability. I know that there's a lot up in the air right now, as we've all heard. Things can move really quickly in a month or not. So if we could just get updates on what that looks like from the perspective of everyone that's, going to be using this, that would be really helpful for my comfortability level. Thinking that we're going to be ready or we're not going to be ready and we need to postpone a little bit. But because I didn't hear about a lot of these concerns until very recently, and we're so close to that go live, it worries me. So if I could at least have some kind of updates to understand where we're at, where we're going, and where we started from, maybe from today, and then a month from now, what's changed, how close we are to whatever, I would feel a lot better about it.
Easy to do so. We'll make sure that happens.
Yeah, maybe even weekly. I think Commissioner Lopez has a nice grasp and experience that we don't have. And maybe if she was in communication regularly, and then she can help relay to us and to Tom and the staff hey, we've got a crossroads or some hurdles that we weren't anticipating. Closing comments.
Just thank you.
Well, we
appreciate you giving us the opportunity.
Brian, Jim, you got anything to close? Okay, David, Tom, okay, and how about you all? Steve?
Good as it gets.
Well, we've learned a lot. Greg? So a year, you came in a year, but You might have 90 days.
We'll do our very best. I do want to stress again that we have an excellent partnership with OJA. I've enjoyed the interaction. We meet weekly. We're meeting twice a week now. There's a lot of balls in the air, and I feel the right people are involved. You know, my only risk here is centered around the timeline, and I just worry that there's not enough time for, as complex as this project is, to pull it off in such a short amount of time. But, you know, I've seen miracles happen, so we'll see what happens. We'll give it every effort.
Keep the master informed.
Indeed.
I want to make sure, and I glossed over my question. I didn't give OJ a chance. Are you seeing any budgetary impact to the local taxpayers of Sedgwick County through any of this transition or go live?
None from my perspective. So, but I mean, obviously they could answer that better than me, but none from my perspective.
Data entry. That's it. If our fears, if Greg's fears are realized and our hopes are not, data entry.
Okay. Judge?
The court will be ready for the transition, but our challenges aren't the same as the stakeholders' challenges.
Right.
I can tell you that we have monthly judges meetings at the end of every month. OJA has been kind enough to come down for our May monthly meeting to prep our administrative assistants, prep our judges, prep our clerks as to what to expect in the 60-day push into the transition. So, and there's training available to the judges on how to work the new system.
Okay.
Some of our AAs have been involved in that training already. Some have taken the position that I'll forget everything I learned unless I learn it, you know, closer to the transition, but the court will be ready.
Sheriff?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity that you guys put this meeting together to hear everybody's aspect of this. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Lindsay, you have something to,
I sure
then we're
do.
gonna ask OJ to,
Not necessarily OJ. Hi, I'm Lindsay Fogerso. I'm the one who sent you the 15,000 email notices. I apologize.
you're talking to the microphone. There you go.
I thought I was. I apologize. Is that better? Okay, sorry. So I'm the chief financial officer for the county. So my questions are actually not necessarily for you. You dodged a bullet today. But Mr. Bennett, you mentioned the data entry. And so I know that we have talked about that in context of going live here in 90 days. Were we to delay this until you got your new system that I know we have the RFP out for shortly, would that eliminate the need for us to hire data entry? And what exactly would those data entry folks be entering? Is that the information that the sheriff was referencing earlier that he relies on you for?
So last question, yes, Sheriff, in terms of kind of put this in context. Just to underscore this, OJ will make this decision, not even these folks, but the people I answer to. We can ask, but they'll go live when they go live. If we go live anytime between now and the end of the year, even assuming they get permission to bump us 90 days, I don't see our RMS being up and going until January of next year. Greg could maybe tell me otherwise, but in the normal course of business to a new RMS, that's a budget for next year. The integration is what I'm talking about. So pulling information that we've currently pulled from full court, we're going to need to pull it into our RMS, whether it's existing Justware or the new RMS that goes live probably January of next year. I need to pull it from the new Odyssey system. That's what am I talking about? I'm talking about everything. Hearings, access to all the documents and the pleadings and the subpoenas and the motions. And I mean, it's literally everything. If you get on the full court, if you want something, I'll show you the kind of things that we're doing now. If that integration is seamless or close to seamless, and we're getting everything that we need come July 8th, morning of, after it went live July 7th, or excuse me, August 7th, August 8th, then my need for someone to enter stuff that we're not getting goes away, because there will be nothing that we're not getting. There may be, as the sheriff mentioned earlier, glitches. There will always be. I have no expectation. There's no, if there's such a thing as it's turnkey new software that's it's as big as this. I mean, literally it runs my office. And also to your final point there, my office doesn't just need access to this. My office is the point of all this. We file the cases. We don't file them. We're not handling someone else's cases. Every criminal case originates from my office. Everyone who interacts with it, from the courts to the defense attorneys to the sheriff to the, it's because of me. So everything flows through and back out to all of our partners. And so all of that information has to be available. What I'm saying is, if it works on August 7th, then I don't need anything other than the attention of all of my IT folks who are going to fix the glitches and work with them over the next 6 months or 2 years, probably, as we work through those. If some portion of that integration does not work, then I will need somebody. I can't wait. I'll have to have somebody immediately start entering that information manually from Odyssey into if the bridge doesn't exist from Odyssey to my office, then someone will have to swim it across manually. And I have no doubt that they will be able to help me out in the short term, because I won't be able to hire somebody overnight. But will they be able to for 6 months or a year or whatever? If let's assume Greg's right and it is actually a year, then they'll either need to give me the clerks around the state to do that for that year, or they'll do it until they can. And when they can no longer do it, then I'll need to hire people. This is my frustration earlier, if it was expressed a bit. I can't give you anything more than that. I can only give you the parameters, not the details, because the details aren't known yet.
And so I think that's part of my question to you then, is to your point of you're not going to know and you can't start someone overnight. By when do we need to know for absolute certain what the go live date is, or in order for you to have what you need in place? Do we need a July date that there's a firm decision? I just don't know what flexibility. I'm not understanding what flexibility we have right now.
Ask me that question in a month. And here's why. We have had access to pieces of information since February-ish. But to Kelly's point, the putting it in the stage where we have access to everything that through the integration, not just the access portal the sheriff and others have. Once we have that for a month and we can go through it, we should be in a better position to know what integrations are working, which ones are not, which ones, how long it'll take to build the ones that aren't. I would like to think by the middle of June, once this, assuming they are, that, as he pointed out, that what Odyssey considers 2 weeks is what the rest of us consider 2 weeks. Assuming we get that in 2 weeks, that then gives us the about second half of May and the first 2 weeks of June. If by the end of June, I should be in a position to say, I don't see how on earth this is going to work. Or I look at you and go, well, there's going to be some glitches, but I think we can make it happen. Then I'll know. But I hope to know 30 days in advance at least, because if I have to code you, it'll be an emergency situation. And I'll be candid with you too. If I'm not asking for $12 an hour data entry, I'll get no takers. I'm asking for highly paid people who I can incentivize to come work for me immediately, and trust, by the way, with some of those personal information that exists in the criminal justice system, social security numbers, dates of birth, addresses, et cetera, and I'll need to hire high level people quickly and train them quickly to do this. Again, I'm not sky is falling hyperbolic. This is going to happen. I'm just telling you, if this happens, that's what I'll need, and it will not be an easy ask, and it won't be cheap.
Okay. Comments as we wrap up?
Well, we certainly don't want that to happen. So that's why we're going to be testing over the next 30 days and making sure this works. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd also like to clarify that that sending over the data is like something that we've got down to a fine art. We've been sending over data to the DA system since, I don't know, December of 2020. So the development and the programming, all that is happening on the DA side. So that's so as it accepts the data, then they, map it to where it needs to go and just where it aligns it to, so that then they can finish, doing their processes in there. So I guess I just wanted to clarify that the programming that we're talking about, the testing that we're talking about is not happening inside of Odyssey. We've done that for the court system. And that's, we work with the court staff for that. But as far as sending that data over, we definitely have that for the integration. We have that down to a fine art. It's been going over for quite a while, so they've had access to that. And then for the stage access, for the elevated portal access, that's where the user is going to go into the web-based browser and look at the read-only data. So I just want to clarify that was a couple of different things. So if that's helpful.
Tom, what do you think? Okay, any other, Sarah, you got anything else? Okay, all right, well, again, thank you all did you come all from Topeka here to get here? Okay. Well, okay, well, there you go. Okay, well, enjoy the city while you're here. And then, thank you all, much appreciated. I know it's a Friday, and thank you others that are in the audience and been here to listen and participate. So have a good day. I think we made some progress. So thank you.